The attack on Pearl Harbor did not begin with explosions. It began years earlier, through rising tensions, competing ambitions, and a slow breakdown of diplomacy in the Pacific. What happened on December 7, 1941, was not an isolated event, but the result of decisions made across decades, oceans, and governments. This is the story of Pearl Harbor, not as a moment of surprise alone, but as a turning point that reshaped global history and brought the United States into the Second World War. At the beginning of the 20th century, Japan was rapidly transforming. Once isolated, it had industrialized, modernized its military, and emerged as a major power in East Asia. Victories over China and Russia had demonstrated Japan's strength and fueled a belief that national expansion was both necessary and justified. Japan lacked many natural resources essential to modern warfare and industrial growth. Oil, iron, and rubber were in short supply. To secure these materials, Japanese leaders increasingly looked outward, particularly toward China and Southeast Asia. By the 1930s, Japan had expanded aggressively into Manchuria and later deeper into China. These actions caused international concern, especially in the United States, which had economic interests in the region and supported China through trade and diplomacy. As violence in Asia intensified, relations between Japan and the United States steadily deteriorated. American leaders viewed Japan's expansion as a threat to regional stability, while Japanese leaders saw American opposition as an attempt to block their country's future. Despite growing tensions, the two nations were not yet at war. Trade continued, and negotiations remained ongoing. However, trust was eroding on both sides. In 1940 and 1941, the situation escalated dramatically. Japan aligned itself more closely with Germany and Italy, while the United States imposed economic sanctions in response to Japanese expansion. These measures included restrictions on key resources, most importantly oil. For Japan, the oil embargo was a critical blow. Without access to foreign oil, its military and economy faced eventual collapse. Japanese leaders believed they had limited time to act. Within Japan's government and military, debate intensified. Some favored continued diplomacy, while others argued that war was unavoidable. If conflict with the United States could not be prevented, they believed it would need to be fought quickly and decisively. The focus turned to the U.S. Pacific Fleet, stationed at Pearl Harbor in Hawaii. Neutralizing this force, even temporarily, was seen as a way to secure freedom of action across the Pacific. Planning for the attack was meticulous and secretive. Japanese naval officers studied Pearl Harbor in detail, trained pilots intensively, and developed new tactics suitable for shallow waters. The goal was to strike suddenly, delivering maximum damage before the United States could respond. On the morning of December 7, 1941, the U.S. naval base at Pearl Harbor was operating under peacetime conditions. Although tensions were high, an attack was not expected in Hawaii. Many American commanders believed that if Japan struck, it would do so in Southeast Asia. Shortly before 8 a.m., Japanese aircraft appeared over Oahu. Within moments, bombs and torpedoes began hitting ships, airfields, and military installations. The attack unfolded in two waves, lasting less than 2 hours. Battleships were damaged or sunk. Aircraft were destroyed on the ground. Fires burned across the harbor. For many service members, the attack came without warning as they prepared for a routine Sunday morning. Despite the chaos, acts of courage emerged quickly. Sailors worked to rescue trapped crewmates. Anti-aircraft crews returned fire. Medical staff treated the wounded under extreme conditions. By the time the attack ended, more than 2,000 Americans had been killed, and over 1,000 more were wounded. Significant damage had been inflicted on the Pacific Fleet, though key assets such as aircraft carriers were not present at the harbor that day. In Japan, the attack was initially viewed as a major success. However, it did not achieve its long-term objective. The American industrial base remained untouched, and the attack unified U.S. public opinion almost instantly. The following day, President Franklin D. Roosevelt addressed Congress. He described December 7th as a date that would live in infamy. Within hours, the United States formally declared war on Japan. Shortly afterward, Germany and Italy declared war on the United States, bringing America fully into the global conflict. What had been a largely European and Asian war now became truly worldwide. Pearl Harbor transformed the United States overnight. Isolationist sentiment disappeared. Military production expanded at an unprecedented scale. Millions of Americans enlisted or were drafted into service. The attack also had lasting consequences beyond the battlefield. Fear and suspicion spread across the country, particularly toward Japanese Americans, many of whom were forcibly relocated and detained despite no evidence of disloyalty. In military terms, Pearl Harbor marked the beginning of a long and costly Pacific War. Early Japanese victories followed, but the industrial and logistical strength of the United States would eventually turn the tide. In hindsight, Pearl Harbor stands as a lesson in miscalculation. Japan underestimated America's capacity to recover and mobilize. The United States underestimated the possibility of a surprise attack far from its mainland. The events of that morning demonstrated how quickly peace can unravel when diplomacy fails, and how a single decision can alter the course of history. Pearl Harbor was not only an attack on ships and soldiers. It was an attack that reshaped alliances, strategies, and the balance of global power. Understanding Pearl Harbor means looking beyond the explosions and recognizing the broader forces that led to that moment. It reminds us that history is shaped not just by sudden events, but by the choices that precede them. The legacy of Pearl Harbor continues to endure, not as a symbol of defeat, but as a reminder of vigilance, consequence, and the far-reaching impact of war. Let us know what you think in the comments.